West Tigers Faithful, episode 54. We are with you after the greatest preseason ever. Many of them are calling it uh, the greatest preseason ever. Joe McCord, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Dispute the claims. 2004 World Sevens champions still trumps 2 consecutive victories. Sorry.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We will not be comparing said preseasons because there's much to discuss about this current one. And hype is high for
Hype
multiple
is.
reasons, of which we are going to discuss. But before we do so, you know what's coming. If you are new to the channel, hi, welcome. Please like, subscribe, rate, share. Follow us on all available social medias. We are on all of them. We would love you to be a part of it. As you can tell, these episodes are pre-recorded now. Not many live casts going on this year, although we may bring in watch-alongs, so potentially an in-person event. More on that at a later date. But for now, my friends, we would absolutely love it if you would connect with us on all forms, spiritually, emotionally.
Especially, we've got a brand new platform. Jared Reedy's decided to start an OnlyFans. So if you're interested in young twinks, Jared Reedy's OnlyFans is now accepting subscribers. He's got some really good introductory material on there for you as well.
Just shooting ping pong balls out of my ass. I can't really segue beyond that, unfortunately, or segue into that. But we'll get straight down in and to it. We were
Let me try. I got a segue. Speaking of putting things in your ass, here Marcy Marcassini putting people on their ass. Anyway, I tried. I did my best.
That's okay. We'll talk about Hayamasi a little bit later when we talk about player performances. So nearly there. I'm also happy that it didn't stick because otherwise we would have had to have spoken about him immediately. But 26-12 winners, victorious over the Penrith Panthers. Just some key stats that I just want to pull out really quickly. So 87% completion rate. We ran for more than 600 meters compared to the Panthers. We had 7 line breaks compared to their 2. We had double the kick meters, 800 to 400, especially last year after we reviewed the season, and our kick meters were about 16th or 17th. That's a really nice thing to see. Couple of negatives. Our play the ball speed was slower than theirs by about 0.3 of a second, and they had 88% tackle efficiency compared to our 84. But I've got to say, a really good performance for a couple of reasons. But the main one that I want to touch on is this. 2 years ago, we played the St. George Illawarra Dragons same time. We also had a bye in round 1, then 2. We were all over the shop in regards to our conditioning, our cohesion, and our structures, and it looked like boys against men. Now, I understand there's been a lot of squad surgery, but from my perspective, you just look at what we produced on Friday night, and regardless of whether or not our attacking execution was off, and it was, and we're going to talk about it, but fitness, line speed, our contact, our effort areas all look really solid. You have a look at, we're going to talk individual performances a little bit later, but that back that Alex Twal got to from the center of the field off Uppy Coruscant's grubber just personified a lot of what Benji Marshall has been calling for so long. But the biggest thing, everyone was singing from the same hymn sheet and everyone knows their role. When was the last time you saw that from a West Tigers affiliated side in February? Genuinely, I would not know. All in all, we're going to talk about attack and defense and individual performances in a little bit. But Mac, 2 tries all at halftime against the top 4 team. I think that's a pretty good outcome.
Yeah, it looks good, doesn't it? Especially considering we're still missing Kai Pierce-Paul there on the right. I think still missing Terrell May. So the fact that we're looking so clinical is already a really good sign, really promising sign. Definitely the best. I think I don't want to put too much stock into it, but to your point, when was the last time we looked this good in a preseason? If you look at history, us being like shonky as fuck during the preseason has been a very good indicator of like performing poorly. Why not? Why wouldn't looking this good in the preseason be a good indicator of performing well? I'm actually getting more and more excited about our prospects this year. I saw a side that was right, neck and neck with Penrith. So I think if we're neck and neck with Penrith, then we're obviously still at the beginning stages of gelling and beginning stages of the the curve this team could potentially end up on. So there's a lot of improvement yet to come. Obviously, there'll be a lot of improvement from Penrith too, but like Penrith are more of the finished article than we are. So, yeah, it's definitely exciting times. There's a lot to talk about. A lot of opportunities. A lot of room for improvement still. A lot of room for growth. It's a young team, but it does have a smell about it. Yeah, get excited, Tigers fans. I think this might be the year. To be honest, I know I'm going off a bit early, but looking at some of the performances from some of the other sides in the preseason, it does not look like a strong comp this year, if I'm being honest. There's a couple of standout sides, and then everybody else look clunky, rusty. I know a lot of them will come good over time, but it doesn't. Yeah, it looks to me like a pretty wide open year, and we look like one of the better sides right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And we're actually going to do a quick fire 30-minute season preview in a little bit. It's not like Bloke in a Bar or Levels Network where we space it out. It's basically 2 minutes per team. And we try and come to a prediction gun to head in terms of where we think those teams will finish. So stay tuned for that. But I want to touch on what you said in terms of being neck and neck with Penrith. And I thought that in the absence of Terrell May, Kai Pearce, Paul and Royce Hunt, our forward pack matched theirs, particularly our middles, and their middles were full strength. I thought that was excellent. We'll talk about individual performances in a little bit. In terms of attack, the left edge, as we kind of anticipated, is going to be phenomenal this year. I wouldn't be surprised if you see offloads from, just like Alex 12, gave that an original offload, which led to the try. Don't be surprised if you see a Kai Pearce Paul offload on the right-hand side of the field, result in a try in the left-hand corner. It looks like kicking back across the ruck is the order of the day. That's going to remain. We saw that first trial. We saw that second trial, different personnel. So I think that's going to be a hallmark of our sort of game management throughout the year. Back on that left edge, it looks like Samuel is going to be doing some ball playing this year. Looked a little bit like Billy Kickout Penrith, the way that they sort of had some block shapes around him. He opted to tuck it under, which might have been, a confidence thing or a trial thing, and sort of, put it away for the time being. But that's going to be really exciting and something to look at. Supercoach players, I'd be looking into that from my perspective. But where I really want to focus this conversation, Mac, and this is where you'll come in, is that I don't think the attack was that bad, but the execution was obviously poor. So a few passes went to ground, particularly the one off the scrum, where I thought that Blue Eye did some beautiful lead-up work playing deep into the line, and if Buller actually gets that tap on the Marcassini, we probably score. And then the other ones where about 10 minutes out from half-time, we couldn't get across the line when realistically we should have found a way. How did you view our attack, particularly in that last 10 minutes of the first half when we couldn't cross the stripe?
Oh, look, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that it's been a little bit of a consistent pattern with the Tigers that we've actually had these games where we've had a glut of possession, a lot more opportunities, a lot more tackles in the opposition 20 and, end up, behind or on level pegging with them, even though, there was a period of time, I think we had like 25 tackles in their 20 and they had one in ours and they were ahead. That seems to be a bit of a common trope with the Tigers. However, there is definitely something a little bit more dangerous about our attack, a little bit more, obviously got Marcassini and May on the left, right? So, as long as we set them up well in a 2-on-2 situation, they're probably 50-50 going to score a try every time. And it's not hard to get a 2-on-2, is it? So, I think what I would say is that's probably one of the more formidable preseason defenses we'll run into. It's your Penrith are a defensive side, and their combinations are pretty well set. They're a very good defensive side. So the fact that we were kind of all over them between the 20s, had most of the possession, probably is a pretty strong indicator that against the majority of the rest of the sides, we would have probably scored 3, 4, 5 tries in that first half with the amount of possession that we had. So I'm not super worried about it. I agree with you. I think our attack looked good. And so much more room for improvement as our combinations gel. I still think, Taylor May looks like he's in really good physical touch. He looks like he's in really good, strong running form, but he doesn't look quite like he's worked out a partnership there with Marcy on the left, which makes sense because, that's new. So once they really figure out the timing, the cues of when Luai or whoever's throwing that pass is going to throw the face ball or it'll throw the short ball or whatever, tries will come. I personally am of the view that I actually think we might end up like having a equally dangerous right edge. Once Kai Pierce Paul comes in, Adam Dewey, obviously he's very run first, but because he's very run first and he's going to be parked on the right, you can kind of see what the plan is there. It looks to me like, the idea is use Kai Pierce Paul and Dewey to put a lot of pressure on the defenders on the outside to crash in on them to give enough space to Toa and Taruva on the outside, who are standing really deep in those backline movements. And it does make sense because like Toa and Taruva are both extremely good off second phase in space. Like, so once you kind of, if Dewey decides to dummy and run and he draws two defenders and gives Toa like, a good offload where he dumps it at the back and Toa's got a 2-on-1, Toa can beat a man 1-on-1 really, really easily. So I can kind of see what they're doing on the right as well. And I actually think it's probably, if anything, it looked a little bit more clinical on the right in that game than the left. Aside from, obviously the Marcy runaway try. Like outside of the 20, we looked better on the left, but inside the 20, we looked a little bit better on the right, I think.
I think so, but I think that there was some moments where a lot of what we spoke about last week kind of came to fruition in the sense of AD, he created the opportunity for our first try, which was excellent. And, he had Blaise Talangi on skates. And obviously, he's such a big body that he can, sort of maneuver in such a way and offload the footy. But there were times when he opted to run as opposed to passing. And yeah, I'm hoping it was rust. I'm hoping that because Kai wasn't there, he's been training with him all summer, that he was getting used to Alex Seyfarth again. But I guess the question is it not necessarily a handbrake, but is he going to squander key opportunities for this right edge in a lot of ways moving forward? Or is his running threat going to be really, pivotal to what we do down that right edge? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a good question. I don't know the answer, but I guess from what I see, it kind of depends on which direction the play is going. Like, so I think, when the play is going left to right, I think you're going to see Dewey run a lot. I think you're going to see Dewey run a lot and try to get an offload away. I think that's actually what they're going to try to do. But then, when you watch Jock and Javon play, Jock was doing a lot of sweeping plays back to the left-hand side from the right. We didn't really see Dewey do too much of that. So, because obviously Dewey is often running the ball on the right, he's playing the ball, so he's not the first receiver when the play's sweeping back to the right. So, yeah, it's interesting. I actually kind of feel like it's part of their system. Like I feel like the idea will be, if Dewey does take that run on the third or fourth on the right, it's like we either score or Dewey's going to draw, enough defensive attention that we can push Appy out to first receiver, and like Stafford could come in and play dummy half, get it to Appy quick, and then Appy can bite into the line and unlock Luai, and then on the left we've got a very easy overlap.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I think that they're going to do. And I think it's going to work because Dewey is always like, what will be tricky for Dewey is kind of like knowing, he's not the sort of guy that kind of much good happens when he passes before the line, if you know. So, in that sense, like it does kind of, if it becomes a bit monotonous and the defense are able to start getting used to the fact that he's going to be running and let's just man up on him and stuff like that, is he going to be able to have the deft touch to, spin it back to the left, or like, the finesse to understand, or like, sorry, the vision to understand when to spin it back to the left or when to put the kick in behind the line for potentially, Taruva to run up and stuff like that. Time will tell. But I think for the first half of the season, they probably won't need to, because it's quite a novel system. Like if it's operating the way I describe it, it's quite a novel system. Like the idea of having a big running seven running off of good ball playing forwards is quite unique. And I don't think many teams will be able to defensively deal with it for at least the first part of the season anyway. So as long as we're one step ahead of defensive systems, we should be fine. And then, maybe, if it does stop working, like if they do figure it out, then it's, it might be a question of like how long it takes for Latu Fainu to get his 7 jersey back.
Well, that's it. I think it's fascinating the points that you make, and you may well be right that second phase, particularly down that right edge from a big tall back rower and a big tall halfback, might be exactly what the doctor ordered in regards to what Marshall wants. I don't know, but fascinating nonetheless. Let's just really talk about the last thing in terms of attack, which will segue into the defensive sort of stuff, and that's it. I hate the fucking settler. So often you see us have a shot. We'll try and score down the left hand, like down the left edge or down the right edge. Then we'll bring it back to the middle, and then we'll go again. The good teams, they go shot for shot for shot. They reload and they just hit you and they try and stretch you as best as they can. And that's what Penrith did for their first try, where they had us down on the ropes down the left with a beautifully worked sort of wraparound play utilising the back rower, very similar to Melbourne in about 2017 with Kaufusi and Kenny Bromwich. And then they just threw the ball right. Couple of sort of very, very flat block shapes. Cleary throws the ball over the top and Tyler runs away. Now, a lot of people have said Taylor's effort wasn't great. Mussy was in no man's land, absolutely, but it broke down in the middle there. And on defense, that's where we need to be mindful that those good teams are going to have a crack at you with no rest for the wicked, and it's something that we could really learn from my perspective in our attack. But it's also something we're going to have to plan for and be ready for in defense. That said, obviously we know they're in the middle of this very high volume conditioning block. They may be able to scramble better next time when there's more gas in the tank. I'm not really sure. The last one is that we need to shield our kick receivers. So against these guys like Tom Jenkins, just he was towering over Sania Taruva all night. I
And
understand.
Lawler.
Yeah, well, Jareem's positioning, we'll talk about Jareem in a little bit when we talk about positional stuff. I think that was more to do with, again, he just looked gas from my perspective. So I'm not particularly worried about him. That Alamotti try, he was in no man's land and then eventually got to the ball and it was too late because he was sort of jumping from a standing start as opposed to having a run up. But whatever. But, we're going to have to escort blokes off the ball, and we're going to have to do it within the rules as best as possible. And that's on Staffatoa, Kaitis, Paul, and then, no one's going to kick the Hiamasi. But, even shielding Buller through the middle, guys like Uppy are going to have to do that. So that's really important. But overall, it was a pretty decent defensive showing. But when they clean up their completion rate, they're going to throw more things like they did with the try. More often, as they clean it up in their fitness builds. So what did you make of our defensive work?
I thought our defensive work was really good. Again, I think that there's room for improvement there when Terrell May and Kai Pierce-Paul come back into the side too, because they're very strong defenders, both of them.
Mm.
Um, it looks good. To your point about the settler, I actually feel like the settler's a little bit of a side effect of having running halves, because when you saw Jock Madden out there, Jock Madden not running very much, like that means that he's at first receiver calling the play every play, so there's no need to run a settler. But like when you're having to like get your halves to reset after the halves have had a run and like got themselves out of the structure, then you have to kind of do the settler play to actually have the halves reset for the next play. So it's kind of, I think, something we're just gonna have to get used to.
Fair enough, bro. Fair enough. So I've sort of been talking about it here and there with different players and different examples, but talking about the players right now. So Jermaine Bullery certainly had a night to forget in a few facets. From my perspective, it's a wait and see. Is he waiting on contract announcements or whatever it may be, so that way it's out of his head? Is he just really gassed at the moment? Is he getting used to AD? Sort of being that right-sided half again. All those sorts of things, but you can tell that they put a lot of running into Jareem and a lot of running into Uppy, because you can tell when Uppy's tired, he throws these fucking diabolical balls from acting half, and he was doing that after about minute 25. So I'm not super worried because Marshall had said they'd been flogged in the lead up. It's just more a wait and see for mine. I know that you probably had some stronger feelings on Jareem when we were watching the game, live, but how are you feeling now? Obviously watching the game back a few times and, making a decision off the back of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was only like 23 or so times that I rewatched the game. So, like, it's not like I rewatched it 24 times. So maybe on my 24th rewatch, I might have a different perspective. But look, how I react when I watch the game is largely played for laughs. When I say punt Buller and then he does something good and then I'm like, re-sign Buller for 10 years, that's just laughs. I think it does suck a little. Like I really wanted to see Buller like, excite me. Like I wanted to come out of that game saying like, Buller's gonna have a big year. And to come out of that game thinking, gee, bit of a question mark, um, isn't great. Um, Especially because it looked like the worst of Buller. It didn't look like even that out of character. It kind of just looked like Buller's sort of like average plod game from last year.
Mm.
Um, when Buller is so like it's Buller's a hard player to kind of understand the value of sometimes because like he kind of gets dominated in the collision a bit. He sort of ambles around a bit. So when he does two or three bad things in a game, the rest of his game kind of, you kind of get more frustrated by it because you're like, look at this lackadaisical motherfucker just meandering around dropping bombs and like doesn't seem to even give a shit. That like, you know what I mean? It sort of compounds a little. But then, you get the games where he scores like a crazy try or like, say does a couple of match winning tackles or whatever. And then it's just like, look at this magician. How is he so good when he looks so lackadaisical?
Yes.
So it's almost like Buller. Yeah, it's almost like if Buller kind of needs to probably just eliminate a couple, like an error or two a game, and just pick his moments a little bit better. So to your point, getting used to Dewey might actually be a bit of an interesting point. Like it might be trying to figure out where he fits. I mean, let's face it, like he took that offload off of Dewey and scored a try. Like that's a thing.
Well, that was a carbon copy of the try that he scored in the Bulldogs game in the wet in July, where Dewey, sort of got his nose through the line again. They were holding him by the scruff of the neck, and he was sort of able to
Yeah, it
offload.
was very, very similar to that, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, when Adam Dewey at halftime said, "Oh, new combos, we're still getting used to it," I thought, "Fuck off!" Like you could say that last year because like half the great squad was different, but realistically, bro, like you got a leg up on everybody last year. And look, they looked pretty good in attack. I think that there was some kinks that need to be smoothed out, but no, I don't think the new combos excuse can be used here. Him and Kai maybe just a little bit, but Kai wasn't even there the other night. But anyway, let's just talk about some other individuals that we were pretty impressed with. We'll leave here Marcy Makasini to last. I thought Alex Twal was our best. I thought he looked fit and fast. He made a dent. His effort plays were good. He was actually carting the ball effectively. His line speed was good. He was looking to hurt people as opposed to simply just wrapping the ball, which was good. I'll let you talk about Charlie Murray in a little bit. Bunty R4, I had not necessarily doubts, but I was a little bit skeptical about the words that we were hearing out of it. And he still needs to do it in a competitive sense. Like, obviously it's just a trial. But what we sort of spoke about in the lead up was pretty good in terms of his defensive work, and his yardage work. It's just his play the ball speed, which good mate of ours, Walk, sort of pointed out a little bit as well. It's a bit Clemmer-esque, but at the same time, we don't know until sort of round two. Once the sort of the conditioning improves. But mate, Charlie Murray, you had a little bit to speak about through the week. Do you want to touch on him or anyone else that you want to make mention of?
Yeah, we'll start with Charlie. I think Charlie's played himself into the NRL side, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I think it'll be jersey 14
Yeah,
from
I think
my respect.
the like he looks like he's like trying to offload every play, like really hard to pull down, and he's got this, I don't know, it's like this weird sort of vibe where like he's kind of like just analyzing while he's like in the tackle whether to offload or not based on whether there's somebody around him. Like he's so present at the moment.
And Mac, on the other side of the ball, he
Something.
almost he stands in the tackle and goes, "Okay, how can I force an error?"
Yeah.
Like, how many errors did he force
Yeah.
out of Penrith the other night? And like blokes like Leota and stuff too.
Yeah, I think Charlie Murray might have tapped into the quantum, bro. Some of the stuff that he was doing these last two games just kind of didn't make sense, man. He must be reading the Darkhold or something. He's got into Satan's source. Like to your point, yeah, like just the first two tackles he makes, like jotting the ball free. It's kind of odd. But hey, I'm here for the Charlie Murray. I'm here for the Charlie Murray uprising. I like, I for one welcome our new antichrist Charlie Murray. He can have that 14 jersey. Um, I don't. I think that he runs hard now too. He's hard to pull down. He's hard to put down. He hurts. His defensive impact is great. I'd like to get a little bit more of an idea of what his tackle efficiency stats were, but I didn't like notice him on any kind of negative. Um, yeah, you want to save Marcy. All right, we'll save Marcy. Talk about Bunty. I thought Bunty, you mentioned him just then, but like I thought Bunty was really good. I think I mentioned last week, like maybe Bunty ends up being the starting prop in round one. And then when we saw, Bolle move back to the bench and Fainu come in at lock, I think that all but confirmed that that's going to be the case. I think Bunty and Terrell May are going to be the starting props in round 2, and 12 will be 13. I actually, I'm gonna shout out somebody much maligned. I thought Seyfarth was good. I actually thought he was pretty good. I know he took a couple of settlers, but like he was there to take them. They wanted somebody to take them, and he takes them. Like that there's something in that. But aside from that, like as the game got like as the game went on, he got more and more involved, and his runs had more and more venom, and he never stopped. He's got this like weird, almost like juggernaut kind of thing going on where he just, I think when he got hurt too, when he like had his nose bleeding and he like went and took the next hit up and then another hit up 2 tackles later. It's like, I like that.
Yeah.
Seyfarth's always, had a bit of a howler in his game, but at the end of the day, like if he can get the howler out of his game, he's definitely a valuable player. I thought Mav Guy was really impressive when he came onto the field. I was really impressed with Mav. I thought that Broadalow again was really, really impressive when he came on the field. He got lots of minutes. And I thought Tony Sukkar was pretty effective in his carries too. And he looks bigger too. So, look, I mean, I actually really like our forwards. I think the work in both the first rounds of all of our forwards has been really impressive. And so hats off to whoever's been working on the strength and conditioning with the forwards. They look fit. They look firing. They look like they're relishing the contact. And yeah, to your point, I think Alex Twal, he looks like a machine out there.
He does, man. Some other guys that I wanted to sort of call out as well, like you obviously said that, Seyfarth was much maligned. Fanua Bolair is at the moment. And while, yes, he had his token penalty and his token drop ball, I thought he looked fucking excellent when he rolled up the sleeves. And I thought in contact, he actually looked like, much better defensively than what we've seen in the past. Early days, if he can cut the shit out of his game, then, I've always believed that there's an elite middle forward on our hands there. And, we always forget, like, he's so young. He's so young. He's only 24 this year, which is just crazy. I thought Luke Lally looked a cut above. With every passing week, I'm earing up at the thought of him leaving for the Perth Bears. Although I'm very happy for him to get an opportunity, and rightly. The last two that are worth shouting out. One, we've sort of teased a little bit, but the other one is Javon Andrews. Joel Kane, who we wish well as he takes some time from SEN, mentioned that if it weren't for Hiamasi Makasini, we'd probably have another Rookie of the Year candidate, and I think it's pretty fair. I think the last 15 minutes really showed what Javon is about, and really showed his touch football heritage. The fleet sort of footedness of his work with ball in hand, these gorgeous little short kicks that just seem to bypass the defensive line and get, and provide, room service bounces for our back rowers and our centers, far enough away from the fullback. His sleight of hand and his ability to just, create opportunities and find points in very, very tight spaces. That ball that he threw for, who was on the left wing at that time when he threw that face ball? I can't remember. It might have been
Lally.
Yeah, it was Luke. That was top shelf. Oh my God.
Mason nearly butchered it, but yeah.
Yeah, he did. Is there anything you want to talk to in regards to Javon? I'm not getting too attached because there's so many people in front of him, but what a player.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like he looks, if he was here 2 years ago, if this version of Javon Andrews was here 2 years ago, he'd be playing in round 2 in the 6th jersey. Like and we've got him for what, 3 years?
Mhm.
and he's already looking like what he is. It's crazy, isn't it? I think what that's it's a trope, but he has that thing that like great halves have, which is time. You know, when he gets the ball, like it's like you can see that everything is slower for him than it is for other people.
Yep.
He doesn't have like an internal clock that's like counting down really fast, and he's like, I gotta make the decision really quickly. And I think that comes with his size, because I don't think that he's afraid of contact, and because he's not afraid of contact, he's kind of willing to, hold the ball for a bit longer than a normal like young player of his age. Um he's just such a confident player, isn't he? He's just so confident, and like the short kicks. I'm trying to think who he reminds me of. It's like on the tip of my tongue. There's like it might be like I keep thinking foreign, but I don't think it's foreign. Like there's a player who was like a fuck. Anyway, it'll come to me. There's a player that he reminds me of that like I might have even been a Tigers half. Benji Marshall.
He the thing you mentioned around time, he's not a similar archetype to Cody Walker, but that sense of time and the ability to go so deep into the line and still be able to get that sort of last pass away is befitting of a player that is gonna have a very, very long career in the National Rugby League.
Who is somebody who had like a really good like deft like super short kicking game? Like, because it's not a very common thing you see like that. Like, be able to like grub a through on the outside of your foot and it just goes 3 bounces for the running man coming through. There's not many halves that have mastered that like sort of kicking game.
Mm.
I feel like not even like Benji was really particularly good at that. Like like he tries sometimes, but
He used to do those weird outside of the foot
yeah,
sort of
and they'd like curve and
straight up.
offer on the wing and come through and score tries, or Ray Ryan on the wing and come through and score tries. But it's to be able to like get the ball to like pull up and bounce up into the arms of the defender running through before the fullback can crash on it. That's a skill, because like if he continues to do that, obviously fullbacks are going to have to like start thinking about like defending more shallow in the line, and then next minute like he's going to just put it in harder. Like he's going to be already having defenses thinking about that. Has he played himself onto the bench for round 2? I wouldn't be surprised, because he's got like versatility. I'm not sure though. Like, part of me really wants to just see Jock and Javon play at least the first 6 or 7 rounds for New South Wales Cup, because I feel like we'll be top of the table by then if they do. Like their halves combination looks freaking awesome. Like
Yep.
they look like perfectly in sync. Like a really good compliment for one another as well. Like and Javon hasn't even really shown, like I think we only saw like one play where like he showed his footwork. Like he's actually like a running player. Like that's kind of like what he's cut his teeth doing. And to see him get 3 try assists in the last 15 minutes of the game, like off 2 grubbers and a bloody face ball, very special talent. Very, very interesting problem for Benji to have. Benji Marshall loves giving young blokes chances, but is he gonna throw it to Javon? Because if Javon comes in and actually brains it, where does
Yeah.
that leave Latu Fino? like, where does that leave him? And then you've suddenly got political things to worry about, because if you literally just make Latu Fino surplus to need, that's a problem that you have to deal with from a roster perspective. So,
The positive is that for the first time in many years, it's nice to have options.
of course.
How it all shakes out, I'm not really sure, but for now, I'm just enjoying having Javon and Concord because, yes, at the end of the day, 3 doesn't go into 1 or 3 doesn't go into 2. Or if you want to add Adam, it makes 4. I have kicked off every single conversation piece. You can have here, Marcy Makasini.
So Marcy looks like John Olomu. Can we just talk about this? I actually went back and watched that like famous John Olomu try.
The Maori sidestep try.
Marcy's try was better. Go back and watch it. Like John Olomu like didn't like bump off anybody front on. Like they were coming from the side and like he was just stepping out of like ankle dive tackles. It was, don't get me wrong, it was just great. Like try. But John Olomu was like, basically just like stepping through tackles from like Northern English plumbers. It's not the same, right? Like Hiamasi Marcassini, like barreled through like a big back rower, fended off like one of the best centers in the game, and then steamrolled the Australian fullback. Like, are you kidding me? Anyway, I digress. What are we going to do here? Because like Hiamasi Marcassini is too good for left wing. Taylor May is our left center. Can we start having like we keep talking about Stafford Toa being potentially a problem? Like, can we have a conversation? Like what is how seriously do we have to take? Because I know people out there who think that every winger and every center should be able to play both sides of the field. What the hell are you talking about, right? So
No.
yeah, can you explain to the listeners at home, like from the perspective of somebody who plays footy and like actually understands the real intricate differences, why it's not as easy to just take somebody like Marcy who's so used to playing on the left and sticking him at the right? Like, what's the downsides of doing it? And also, despite the downsides, would you still think about doing it? And do you think Marcy's good enough to overcome those downsides?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, your handedness and your footedness quite often determines where you will play football in terms of what side you play. So if you are a left-hand carry, you will typically play on the left-hand side, right-hand carry right side, right-hand kick, you will play right side, which is why Lachlan Galvin was moved from the left edge to the right by Benji before he left the club. So that way he could make way for Jerome Luai, who was a left foot kicker, the same way that Luke Brooks was a left foot kicker. Now, with outside backs, Ivan Cleary, for example, and he did it while at West Tigers, has always been a firm believer, as has a guy like Tim Sheens, that you should be able to play both sides. Now, I agree for the most part with wingers that you should be able to, that ultimately you should be able to put the ball down with both hands, you should be able to finish well and those sorts of things. But centres, I think it's a little bit different. Now, if you want a decent case study, before he was converted to a winger and, he was the subject of so many different legal battles, Zach Lomax, right? Right-hand carry, right centre. What was his greatest gift before the high ball, before his, sheer brutality coming out of contact? It was his ability to flick the ball out the back. It was his ability to, stand up one defender, drag in the second defender, and flick that ball out the back. Hiamasi Makasini does the exact same thing, but on the left-hand side, which is why it's so important. Now, that's just the attacking part of it, right? Defensively, you will hear a lot of former players talk about it's really difficult to get your bearings. If you've played one side for so long, again, because, you are developed in such a way that if you are a left-hand carry, left side, etc., you can, your sense of understanding and familiarity with the football field and where you're standing can be really difficult, especially if, you are playing a certain defensive structure where you're not necessarily marking man for man, you're opting to slide or you're coming in and you sort of your wingers and your centers are turning in and playing quite aggressively and trying to hit the fullback and the winger, the fullback and the center before the ball gets to the winger. So all of those things fundamentally are, reasons why sometimes it can be quite difficult to switch. Now, back on the Lomax thing, Anthony Griffin, the world's worst fucking head coach we've ever seen, moved Zach from the right-hand side to the left for whatever reason, I don't know. Knowing Hook Griffin, it was probably to kill any sort of attacking prowess that he had in the side, but he took away his key gift. Now, in regards to talking about the Taylor and Hiamasi dilemma, you're talking about Hiamasi being ready for left center. I think from an attacking perspective, he absolutely is. I think defensively, he's still got a little bit to learn. Now, this kid's a cyborg. He learns quicker than most kids because of the talent and the balance and the sort of gifts that he possesses. But at the same time, it's not him that I'm moving. I look at Taylor May, right, who has played so many different positions coming through the grades at Penrith when he was younger. He played a bit of 9, he played a bit of 13, obviously, eventually transitioned to the wing around the time when Ivan identified that yardage, from your back three was so important. But I think for mine, one, he's more of the winger than Hiamasi moving forward. Not right now, but moving forward. But for mine, he's the more logical move to the right edge. Now, whether or not they do that, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, we spoke about last week what we do around the right center depth chart, and bringing in a guy like potentially like Wilson DeCourcy to put pressure on Staffatoa. But for mine, it's Talon that moves because he doesn't possess the ability, from my perspective, and I could be wrong, and I hope he's been working on it through the offseason, to draw in his center, swat him away, bring in the winger, draw and pass. I think Hiamasi, it just comes naturally to him. For that reason, that will come. But as you'll see, they're going to start with Hiamasi on the left wing to begin with. I think that Jarrell Skelton, unfortunately, is never going to get that jersey back. So it's a matter of, waiting and seeing. And, if Taylor goes down, which is possible because, he does have a pretty checkered injury history, that we may not be having these conversations and Taylor may have no choice than to play on the right. But in a perfect world, and touch wood, this is what happens. If Hiamasi's performances dictate that ultimately he has to come one in because we need to get him the ball more often and earlier, then I think that for mine, Taylor's the one that moves to the right.
So, question then. Like, if Hiamasi Marcassini is at centre, what sort of winger is best suited to being outside of him? Because obviously he's the player who is going to make the choice about whether he's going to take it on and go himself or like unlock the man outside of him. Do you think it's better to have like a juggernaut like Skelton outside of Marcy so that there's just two gigantic human beings out there that like they can't account for the size mismatch? Or do you think it might even be somebody who's a little bit more like a freak finisher, like a Tavana outside of Marcy, who can like take advantage of the the really like the tight overlaps and tight releases that Marcy can actually give to him? Or do you think it's just somebody like Taylor May who's a bit in between both?
I think Marshall would probably award it on performance in future years. That wouldn't surprise me. I think that Taylor will remain at centre, providing that he is at the Tigers. It's just a question of whether or not it's left or right. I think that it's a good question, but I think most teams have three really, really good yardage players in their back five, right? Obviously, Penrith are the gold standard. They have Edwards, Alamotti, To'o, and Jenkins does a pretty good job. The Bulldogs have Critter, Kiraz, and Marcelo Montoya. But the thing is that we already have those three guys in our stable. You have Marcassini, May, and then Taruva, who pound for pound is the best yardage winger in the game. So what does that mean? I think, you can be a little bit more flexible with it. Tino was the first bloke that popped into my mind. My only question or mark around Tino is not his finishing ability, and I think his yardage game is improving, and defensively he's a winger. He'll get there whenever. It's not that important. It's just speed. Speed is the question. It's Hiamasi's ability to absorb, sort of pressure, contact, and get that ball free. Imagine having a guy like Josh Adokar on that wing. You put away everything realistically. No one's going to touch him. It's making sure that Hiamasi's work and the lead-up work that he does is good enough to provide points, because it will, providing you have the right person outside you. For that reason, I don't think it's Skelton. It could be Taruva. Taruva's pretty zippy. But, yeah,
Well, Tino's fast.
it's one to ponder. Tino's quick. He's just not blinding quick. That's all. Is there anyone in the system that might be? I don't know.
I mean, the Jack Assad you were about to say, right?
Yeah, I was. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him blooded on the wing.
Mm.
If it came to that hypothetically, he would benefit.
I think Jack Logan Brooks is pretty damn fast. I think Oitman is probably the quickest in the pathways, isn't he?
He'd be up there.
So we don't really have any like absolutely blindingly quick winger types anyway. So maybe that's something we need to think about in the medium term. Like if Marcy's going to be a left center, I think you bang on. Can you imagine Adokar outside of Marcus? It'd be insane. So maybe we need to develop somebody or go and like poach a really quick left wing. Somebody like Jalen DeGroot from the Titans would be a nice.
Yeah, I like that, because you've got that physicality already, out on that left edge, as it is with guys like Sam Weller and Hiamasi already there. No one's going to want to fucking run there. That will hurt. And, realistically, most attacking sides favour their left edge anyway because everybody's basically right-handed and throws a better right to left.
Mm.
So, I don't mind the De Groot shout. He looked excellent in that trial against Melbourne.
He's
But
very quick.
yeah, it's one to ponder in future years. It's
Saab's
just
on the outer at Manly.
yeah, true, but I don't rate him, to be honest. I think, there's something to miss there. I don't know what it is. I just think going to Manly after the Dragons was the wrong call.
Mm.
Just looking at who's off contract, there's no real absolute Sam Stone Street's off contract. I'd look into that.
He seems like he's off contract every year. Do the Sharks just not want him? They just keep giving him 1-year extensions instead of actually signing and locking him down.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, mate, that would be actually, yeah. So imagine this. You've got Buller at fullback, right sting Taruva, left sting Stone Street, whose grandfather played for Western Suburbs, so he's got history in the game. And then right centre Taylor and left centre Hiamasi.
Mm.
I think it's a nice balance. I think you get everything that you need. And then you've probably got Skelton and Tavana underneath.
Mm.
Supplanting those guys, Paddy Herbert there too. And Stafford Tower, obviously, he'd be still contracted. That sounds good to me, I think.
Would Stafford Toll be quicker than anybody else? Like, is it potentially you just do a swap with Marcassini and Starr? Like, do you just with May and Starr and just play Starr on the left wing? He's played heaps of wing.
He has. He has. I mean, that's where he started. That's where he started his first great career. He's a fullback by trade, and the Tigers mainly identify that he was a centre. It's actually Tim Sheens' work.
Mm.
Got a beautiful right hand flick pass as well. I think that's why Star Ruva was such a hit those sort of first 9 or 10 rounds last year. It's a fair point. Again, as we spoke about earlier when we were weighing up individual performances, mate, it's just nice to have options. But
Mm.
see, but yeah, thank you for opening that can of worms. Now I'm going to go and put Stone Street in my hypotheticals for 2027. Speaking of other players potentially, on recruitment radars, obviously the Mitchell Barnett situation is quite live and pretty. It seems to be changing with every hour. You're hearing news stories from his manager, from players like Payne Haas and everywhere else. I can't believe that he's entertaining Brisbane. I had a look. It's a fucking 6-hour drive to Taree, whereas from Concord it's only about 3 hours. I think that he'll probably hold out for the Newcastle Knights. But obviously a New South Wales representative, albeit 33 years old and coming off an ACL. We've always spoken about, is he the guy we need? Or is another guy like a Loco Junior Pacifica Tonga, who Shane Flanagan left in Sydney as his team goes to play in Vegas? Are those the sorts of guys that we should be looking into and inquiring about? Or are you happy with, what we have in the middle right now? And, are you weary of sort of throwing the roster out of whack, given that, we have guys like Terrell May and Kai Pearce-Paul and so forth on good cash?
I would not mind. Like, you got to always be in the market. Hey,
Hmm.
like you can't just be even the best sides. They're always in the market. Like, if you can upgrade anyone, you upgrade them. Like, Mitchell Barnett walks into our side, right? So, like, if you can get him, but like it just becomes a matter of like the value over replacement value that we talked about so much last year.
Yeah.
If you look at who we've got off contract, we've got Kit Lolaliti off contract, right? Kit Lolaliti had a pretty good first trial. We put a lot of development into him. He's gonna be a first grader. It's a matter of whether he becomes a competent first grader this year, next year, or the year after, like how long it takes with Kit. But I would probably prefer. I think the ACL is probably the thing, right? Like, I think it's the question marks around Barnett because he's just becoming off injury. Like, if he had played out the last year without the injury, it'd be almost a no-brainer. You'd want to go after him. 33, he's older than I thought he was. Yeah. I feel like if you're looking at like what it means for our roster, you're basically saying, would you rather a 33-year-old Mitch Barnett or 21-year-old Kit Lolaliti? And I think that you probably got to take the 12 years, right? Like, you got. So what do you think of Kit? Like, do you think we should be extending him?
I think we fucked his development.
Really? You think we fucked it? Like, I mean, he's so young. Like,
He's a lock, bro. He's a lock.
you think converting him to like, I mean, what difference does it make in the NRL? Look at 12.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
I think
I just think grooming him into Royce Hunt Light was the wrong thing to do. We've been crying out for so long. He needed this small ball playing lock forward, and realistically, we've had him in the wheelhouse forever. It's I understand that, his leg speed is wonderful. His yardage work is really good, and obviously for a lock forward, you've got to play big minutes, and he's not as fit, or he wasn't as fit as he should have been, but there was so much there to like and so much there to work with. If you would have asked me in sort of 2022, 2021 what I thought, in regards to where Kit Lalali'i was going to go, I would have called it. I would have said he was a future captain of the club. End of 2023, got his debut. It was premature, but he didn't look out of place that night. I don't think he's ever. It's like Luke Brooks-itis. I don't think he's looked as good in first grade since his debut, albeit he's only played a handful of games. Look, Benji called him out after the game, said he thought he played really well against the Chooks. I'm really hopeful to see him, continue to improve. And that's the thing, he's so young, like, especially for a middle forward. He's so young. Like, he's 21. He's just turned 21. And, we know that middles don't come good till about 26, 27. So I hope they hold on to him. I hope they keep him into the system. But with his brother leaving, I'm not too sure. There are also some whispers late last year that the club was sort of looking to move him on. But I don't know. Maybe playing for a contract will bring the best out of him. But in terms of how I feel about Kit, yeah, I really do think that the Tigers mishandled his development completely.
fair enough. I'm just looking at the off-contract players that, like, are in the middle. Like, all West Tigers off-contract players, we actually got 8. So
Mm,
that means we've only got, what, 22 top 30 players signed for 2027. Actually, probably more than 22 because there's probably a couple of development guys that are already going to get upgraded, right?
yep.
Um, so you got Will Craig, who's going for sure. Maverick Guy, who looks moral to go to Perth. Tristan Hope,
Great.
who I don't know about Tristan Hope. Kit Lolalii, Heath Mason. Heath Mason's an interesting one to be off contract. I think he'll probably leave. Solomon Isakuru, Jarrell Skelton, and Tony Sukkar. I reckon looking at that, like, we don't want to, like, we wouldn't want to turn the whole lot of them over because it'll put too much pressure on us to have to recruit, right? Like, I feel like of all of those players, Kit's probably the one that you probably do re-sign. Like, out of all of those, like, okay, let's say you choosing between Kit and Tony. Would you prefer to invest the next, like, let's say a 2-year extension into Tony Sukkar or Kit Lee?
It'd be Kit. Because I think that the main question between, those back rowers is whether or not it's Solo or if it's Sukkar. And even then, I'd be picking Solomona. I just think in terms of what he offers, in terms of pure game-breaking ability, I think you can go and find a Tony Sukkar on the open market pretty easily, as opposed to, a Solomona Sakura or a Kit Lee. That said, I know how much Benji loves these effort guys, so I'm not entirely sure, but I agree with you. I don't think you can turn over the whole roster. Craig and Guy are, I think, are gone, as you say. Hope's a wait and see. Kit, yeah, I don't think anyone bar Skelton is an absolute must retain, but I'll be really curious to see who they prioritise in the months leading up to,
Man, I
those
reckon Perth.
free agents.
I reckon Perth's almost morals to take Mason.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. I get the feeling that Benji really likes him, and that's why he continues to get a crack.
Yeah,
Benji didn't like him, then he wouldn't be playing first grade. And I know Benji loved Luke Laulii, but I don't think that Heath's going to have as many suitors.
yeah. I think that's where we disagree because, like, I know we look really closely at Heath and we've got, like, real nuanced opinions on Heath Mason, but, like, ain't many people out there his age that can play 1, 6, potentially, that 13 roll off the bench that could probably also play in the center and the wing. Like, he's for a brand new club. You look at how the Dolphins built out their, like, initial roster. It was a lot of Heath Mason type players that they picked because they were able to, like, plug and play them and get overvalue out of them. I reckon Perth would have him right in their line of sights, to be honest. And the fact that they've got Luke Lolley already, they've obviously, got a relationship, those two guys. They've known each other for a very, very long time. I wouldn't be surprised if they like Perth picked the eyeballs out of all of our off contract players, to be honest. I can see all of them going. Honestly, can see all of them going. And they will. I maybe you're right about other clubs potentially not necessarily valuing Heath Mason as high as we might. Like, what would you extend him for? Like, I mean, realistically, like you're not going to offer him more than what 350 max.
Minimum wage, 1
Yeah.
year.
Well, Perth will give him more than that because
Yes.
they've got like because they're too you know they're gonna be struggling to like fill out the roster with like quality NRL players. Like he'll get 300 off Perth easy.
Yeah, I don't know, bro, but I agree with you. I think that Perth will come for the Maverick. Obviously, he's going to get a multi-year deal there. We won't stand in his way. They're gonna need at least one backup 9 under Wishart. Tristan could be that guy. Kit's a small ball forward that they're lacking apart from a Josh Curran, possibly. Heath, as you say, and that's a really good point. He does cover a lot of positions, albeit not too great, but he is young. There is upside there. He does have good pedigree. Solomon has got clear game breaking ability. Giral, has played everywhere, in terms of, on his journey as a footballer. There's a fair school of thought there. And Tony Sukar's a pretty solid as a rock back rower. So I don't know, mate. Maybe we'll see. But unless you've got anything else to say,
I was going to say, if I look at all of the clubs that have players off contract, we have probably the most quality young development players that haven't quite kicked on off contract. And I personally am somebody who loves taking flyers off of like high pedigree young players that are still in their early 20s that just need a change of scenery. So from that perspective, I feel like this crop is like and who's Perth's recruitment manager? Just the best recruitment manager of all time, right?
I don't know who it is.
Isn't it the guy? Isn't it Meninga's mate? Like, isn't it the guy that
they're all Mal's mates? I just forget his name. I think he was a
Peter something?
No.
It's not Peter File?
Oh, crap. All right. Season preview. If you remember last year, I just basically say where I think they'll finish. Mac does the same, and we go from there. We'll go from alphabetical order because the Tigers are last, and we can put our nuts on the line there. Obviously, this is a West Tigers podcast, as all of you will know. Okay, Broncos. Now, obviously, World Club Challenge over the weekend wasn't great. A lot of questions around Madge and whether or not he's the guy in the wake of Hakeem Haas leaving that club to join South Sydney next year. I don't think it'll affect them. This is a team that didn't play any trials in the lead up to the whole KR game. I think that there is so much for them to develop into. They weren't controlling games last year, particularly through those finals. They had to go and chase games. I think this year you'll see them probably lead from the front and kick clear. Unfortunately, they straight up, they're my tip for the premiership. I can see them going back to back.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, I'm totally off Brisbane. I'm selling. They are, they are. I can see your point because initially I was going to put them as the minor premiers myself until you said so. But like now, because you did, I'm going to make my contrarian prediction. That is also based on logic. Michael Maguire. What happened to the South Side the year after they won the comp?
I think it was about 6th they ran.
All right, then I'm going with 6th because I think that like Madge pushes sides to the limit in the act of getting them to win a comp. Actually, I'm going to go 7th because I think that the Broncos side has a lot less fortitude, a lot less testicular fortitude to use a Vince McMahonism than that South side did. They're like one Reece Walsh injury or one Reece Walsh off-field injury issue or one Adam Reynolds, pulling a hammy, one pain. Like there's too many question marks for me to actually feel like that. Especially when I feel like that, every side's going to play Brisbane every week as though it's their GF. That side just doesn't feel like that they just have enough like testicular fortitude for mine. So I'm going 7th.
There you have it, 7th. All right. Well, a team that you spoke about, the Hunters becoming hunted. I think these guys are going to be circled on every calendar when teams play them, and that's the Canberra Raiders. They are what recruitment managers should be looking to emulate. There is speed and size in the outside backs. There is physicality and sheer strength through the through the middle forwards. They have the best young 5'8" in the league in Ethan Strange. There is just so much to like, and they just know how to pick the eyes out of the English market. I thought Matty Nicholson was a brilliant buy last year. For mine, though, I do see them sliding again. The whole hunters into the hunted type thing, but on top of that, halfback. I think losing Jamal Fogarty is really going to hurt them. I don't think he's going to set the world alight at Manly, and we'll get to that. But I think Ethan Sanders and Kobe Black aren't going to be the plug and play players that I think that Ricky Stewart is hoping for. I think, to develop that, your voice and lead that really experienced and high quality, sort of forward pack around, and to kick the ball in the way that Jamal Fogarty did and lead that side around, I think they're going to find that really difficult to emulate. I can see them coming home with a wet sail late, but for mine, I think it might be too late. I've got them in the old West Tigers position of ninth.
Wow. I also have them coming ninth, would you believe?
Huh.
I literally have it right here on my screen. It says ninth. I think you make valid points, but for me, the reason is in the preseason last year, Canberra looked great, and not only did Canberra look great, Ricky Stewart had this like air to him, like he had this just like this is it. I have figured it out. And as somebody who tapped into the universal awakening experience that so many people around the world had in 2025, I recognize game when I see it. Ricky Stewart was having a spiritual awakening last year, and that was why he was able to get Canberra as far as he did. He failed, and he's not the same Ricky Stewart this year. I know it sounds like I just smoked 12 cones, but I'm telling you now, Canberra Raiders ninth is immoral.
Love it. Give me your thoughts on the Dogs.
You want me to lead with the Dogs? I think that the Canterbury Bulldogs are probably going to win the minor premiership.
Holy fuck. That's my prediction as well.
Yeah. So I don't think they'll win the GF, but I think they'll win the minor premiership. I feel like that they're such a, I don't know, how do I describe it? They're such a regular season side. But like Lachlan Galvin just gives me the vibe of the guy who's gonna never be able to get the job done when the whips are cracking, because he's put so much pressure on himself from such a young age that like when it comes down to it, and we've already seen it enough times, like when it comes down to it and he has to like do the big thing to win the game, he isn't pulling the rein yet. I haven't seen enough and now they're basically putting all their eggs in his basket, right? Like he's the man now. Like, so, that being said, they've got enough, like they're so strong everywhere on the field aside from that, like that I think that they're probably going to win. I think they're going to be one of the more unconvincing minor premiers of the modern era, but I think they're the minor premiers.
I tend to agree. I think that for the most part, their system is just so good. I think Seraldo, honestly, is the best X's and O's coach in the game. I think that as a result, it will put them on top in the regular season, but it will plague them and Lachlan Galvin all year in terms of, can he be the guy? Can he be the guy? I think that they will win a finals game for the first time since Obama was president, and they'll make the prelims, but I can't see them there in the first weekend of October.
You reckon they get knocked out in the prelim?
Yeah, I do. That's where I see them, unfortunately. I would love to see them have a terrible year, but they are, for mine, the best side coming out of preseason by a long shot.
Yeah.
The full strength Newcastle side of nil, like in a trial. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's scary times. I can see them genuinely beating the Dragons by 70 on Sunday.
Yeah. These Vegas games are fucking questionable this year, aren't they?
Terrible compared to last year. Terrible. All right, Cronulla. Yeah, this is probably my boldest prediction. I've got them missing the 8 entirely. I think that Craig Fitzgibbon has taken this group as far as they can go. There's a lot of players off contract. I think there's going to be some regeneration there. Some guys like Will Kennedy, Cameron McInnes, Sia Sifa Talakai, who sounds like he's signed, sealed, delivered to Perth. these sorts of guys, I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a regeneration there, and they'll be back in the four. They're a very admirable team, the Sharkies, in the way that they do a lot with very, very little in regards to their resources. He's just those of you who are listening as opposed to watching, he's showing me that Cronulla beat Canberra 48-6 in a trial last weekend. But I'm sticking to this island. I've got them running 10th in that cluster of teams from 7th to 12th.
I got them second. I actually feel like I get where you're coming from. Where we disagree is I kind of don't rate Fitzgibbon. And I think you kind of think that, the playing group at the Sharks are kind of just not quite good enough. And you keep saying things like he's got him as far as he can get him and stuff like that. If you put the Cronulla Sharks 1-17 strongest squad in the Melbourne Storm jersey, they would win the comp running away. Like the quality in that playing group is bananas. Like it is this. I think it's the strongest side on paper in the NRL. And if they can't win the comp with that, then it's the coach's problem. But the thing is that I do see them having a heaps good year. I actually feel like. Now I feel like they're a little bit of a smoky to win the comp. But the thing is, I still don't rate Fitzgibbon. I think he it's no coincidence that he's Trent Robinson's understudy, because Trent Robinson's a coach. He's a good coach. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but he's a coach that has basically cut his teeth with the best club in the game from his entire coaching career. So he's had everything handed to him. He's had the easiest job in the NRL from a coaching perspective, bar none. And Craig Fitzgibbon's number 2 on my list because the Sharks have been stable, strong. I don't know how they keep doing it, but they just keep finding great young talent. And when they don't, they manage to recruit. So no, I got them second, and I actually think that they're gonna be there when the whips are cracking. They always are.
Yeah, look, I don't know based on trial form. I thought they looked really good, but I've had this feeling for a little while. So we'll see. I know how much you love this team, the Redcliffe Dolphins. You were urging people to get Dolphins memberships around the time that HBG decided to hit the ejector seat on Shane Richardson. Why don't you lead off with your thoughts around the Dollies?
I'm gonna say that Finns will be up this year. So aside from the Dogs and the Sharks, I actually think we're going to have a pretty significant transition year in terms of the top 8. And I think that the Finns are going to be one of the sides that enters the top 8. So I've got the Finns finishing 8th. And I think that the Finns are a side that, by the time that they do sneak into the 8, they're going to be probably a side other sides aren't going to want to see, because I feel like that when they do lose, they tend to leave you thinking that, there's more meat on the bone every time. Like, they're not a side that kind of looks like a losery team. They just rack up losses and they can kind of beat anybody on their night. So yeah, Finns up. I'm going 8th for the Finns. I think that, you want to talk about Katoa, so I'll let you run away with your waxing lyrical about him.
Oh, I think he's the best young half we've seen in years. I think you look back at the premier halves that we have in this competition. I don't think any of them have made a splash in the way that he has, and it speaks to, the player that we have on our hands. But from a squad perspective, I just think there's so many players there that suit these new rules. Jeremy Marshall-King is amazing with a fast rolling ruck. Hemiso Tabuai-Fidow is pure X factor and game breaking ability, providing he wants to get his hands on the ball. There was a couple of games last year where it looked like he didn't, but Herbie Farnworth, Max Plath, Kurt Donahue, these sorts of guys, I think are phenomenal. I think they've assembled such a good roster, and I think it's Peter O'Sullivan's greatest achievement to have built that roster the way that he did before he moved on to Newcastle. The biggest question around them is the makeup of the forward pack. Now, it's nice to have options, but it's getting the balance right, which you've seen stacked forward packs like the Roosters fail to get the balance right in years past. So that'll be interesting to look at. But if Tom Flegler doesn't miss a trick and comes straight back into the league and doesn't look like he's missed a beat, and Daniel Saifidi stays injury free, I thought he was phenomenal at the beginning of last year. I think that they are a problem. You've got them 8th, I've got them 6th. Titans. So new coach, Josh Hannay, who I think is a great coach. I think he's actually one of these under the radar style coaches, whereas your Ciros and your Rosleys and Fitzgibbons and these sorts of guys, not Benji, but a lot of these guys have come into the league and have been sort of heralded as these new great coaches. I think Josh Hannay's as good as any of them. And there was no bigger endorsement than Tino re-signing, as did Cooper Bye, who I think is the next great talent out of Southeast Queensland as far as middle forwards go. I see a lot of similarities to Parramatta. He's cleaned out the roster really quickly. He's really shaped it into his image again really quickly. But I do think that this very, very strong preseason is a little bit of a smokescreen. I think it's going to take a little while to start, but when it does, they're going to be very hard to stop. There's just so much attacking upside there. The problem is obviously the lack of a genuine on-ball seven. I don't think they trust Lockie Ilias, and I think that Zane Harrison's still another 12 to 18 months away. Going ahead, I think they'll have a good end of the season. I've got them about 13th.
I have the Titans finishing in the top 4.
Oh, wow. Wow. Go on.
So I have them 4th. I could have just said 4th. So look at this side that just put 42 past Melbourne on the weekend. Keanu Kinney. Keanu Kinney is, I reckon this year he's probably going to win Dally and Fullback of the Year. I don't even think that's that far-fetched.
Fuck no.
Philip Sami and they got Fiamani on the wing. Don't think he's their full-time winger, but anyway, I digress. Philip Sami's good. Jojo Fafita, Fiangai in the centers is a good center pairing. AJ Brimson and Campbell in the halves, good halves combination. But where they're strong, Fotuaka, Fasumala Awe in the middle, I think a lot of it will come down to if Tino can stay fit. Because he looked amazing in the trial. He looked better than I've ever seen him. And then they've got, the likes of Fermor. They recruited Curtis Moran, who looked great. Cooper Bye is an amazing young talent. And where I think that the Titans probably get over the top of other players is I think they have some incredible young depth. Unlike you, I kind of think Zane Harrison's probably going to play himself into the side pretty quickly. And I actually think he'll be very good. I think Zane Harrison is the sort of, in this situation, if I was a young seven, usually, the Titans have kind of churned a lot of young sevens over the years, but something about him this year makes me feel like it'd be the place to be as a young seven. Probably, being able to just play a little bit of pass the ball to Tino, pass the ball to Keanu, pass the ball to Jaden Campbell. I think ultimately you probably end up seeing Campbell 6, and Harrison 7 and Brimson in the centers, and then suddenly it's a much stronger looking side, assuming Harrison plays well. But yeah, look, I know it's a bold prediction. A lot of it comes down to a lot of it comes down to the vibe I have about Hannay. I'm with you. I actually think Josh Hannay is going to be a real good coach. So, gotten fit and firing in the preseason. And I guess I'm back in that preseason form to stand up. I'm actually largely backing what I saw in the preseason to stand up. That's where a lot of my predictions are coming from. So yeah, 4th, go YOLO.
Okay. Manly, it's taken 7 teams to get here. These are my wooden spooners. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it, it's just not going to work. I think that Tommy Trebojevic, unfortunately, as much as I love him, is coming to the end of his career. His brother Jake is not too far behind him. He actually may well be in front of him. I spoke about Joseph Sub a little bit earlier. I don't think he offers enough. I don't think Ruben Garrick's a centre, and I think that their forward pack is just missing a lot of key parts. I love Ethan Bullimore, but he's their best player. Taniela Paseka, although he looked good in the trials, getting back, trusting his body after I think it was an Achilles is going to take time. Kobe Hetherington, I think he's good in a pack full of tall timber. I don't think he's that guy. I don't think Fogarty's going to perform well behind this forward pack. I think he was perfect for what Canberra needed last year. Behind this forward pack, he's not going to be able to do the same things. You're hearing the exact same noises out of Narrabeen that you were out of Concord in regards to Luke Brooks when he was ending his tenure there. And to top it all off, I know for a fact that half the club despises Anthony Seabol. So for mine, dead last.
I think I would agree with you if not for the fact that Manly are just, like, weird in the sense that, like, they end up just winning weird games throughout the year and avoiding being I just got them 15th, but, like, I agree with everything you said. I don't think they're gonna be last because I feel like that there's a couple of sides that are, as competitive when it comes to being trash this year. Trash. This is
Yeah.
a trash year of trash teams that are trash, and the
Well,
Tigers are not one of them.
one team that you think are going to be trash, I think this might be your boldest prediction unless you've changed your mind since Saturday, the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah, I got Melbourne missing the 8. I'm not gonna say they're, like, gonna be trash, but I have them 10th. I like, again, 42 Titans put past them, and the Melbourne rolled out a good side. They just feels like the wheels are coming off the Storm. I don't know, like, it's just a vibe I've got about them. I know that they had a real good year last year, and it's the Melbourne Storm, and you just think, "Oh, it's the Melbourne Storm." But, like, Ryan Papenhuyzen bailing, Bellamy always like 1 foot out the door, it seems. They don't seem to have shown up like in the preseason like I would have expected. It's a bit reading the tea leaves, but Bellamy never picks the strong sides in the preseason, and the fact that he felt the need to makes me feel like he's not got a lot of confidence. So I just yeah, and I guess it's more of a testament to what I think is going to happen in terms of what I talked about before with the transition. Like, I see a lot of teams that were on the outside of the 8 last year, there or thereabouts, that all look like they've jumped a level. So there has to be some sides that slide, right? And I just think Melbourne's going to be one of those sides. I just do. They obviously have the best home ground advantage in the NRL. And that's never going to stop being the case. It's a very hard place for any side to go down and play and win. So because of that, I think that they'll still win a fairly large amount of games. But yeah, I do think that they're going to miss the 8.
Yeah, look, worst preseason ever in a comic book guy voice, I think. Obviously, Eli Katoa went down in that horrific collision in that Pacific Championships game. Ryan Pappenhausen's made his way to the exits. Nelson Asofa Solomona, although in and out of the side, was a guy that they needed in the postseason. He's gone now too. They have a brand new back row because Sean Bloor is still under questioning regarding there was a night in Sydney.
Criminal behavior.
Yeah, there's that. Xavier Coates has done an Achilles, and then on top of that, you've got all this Lomax stuff, which wouldn't really be affecting the playing group, but it speaks to how desperate they are for quality in the outside backs because they don't really possess it at the moment. There were some real sizable question marks about Will Warbrick at the end of last season. I still think that Jack Howarth is a back rower and not a centre, and therefore, you are weakening your back line as a result. And Nick Meaney is Nick Meaney. He has his classy moments, but realistically, he's not a premiership winning right centre from my perspective. Look, Master Hughes and Grant will keep them up. For mine, I think I have them in the 8, but I don't have them making the 4. I think it's going to be an ugly one. But my biggest watch down there is Jack Hetherington. I'm really excited. I'm a big fan of Jack, and I think he's got all the physical gifts, but he's just never been able to put it right because he's just got too much fucking smoke in the head. So if he can put it together, I'll be pretty keen to see that. The Warriors, I do have them missing the 8, and I just think it's mainly because of their start. Luke Metcalf was phenomenal for them last year and was on course to win the Dally M until he unfortunately did his ACL again. Really feel for the bloke. But Barnett, I hear, will be back. I think he's actually back for our game in round 4. But, not having him initially, I think there's question marks around both Tamare Martin and who's the other one? Chanel Harris-Tavita. I just think that they're going to take a little while to get started, similar to how I feel about the Raiders and the Titans, and they're not going to be able to pull it back. For mine, 12th.
Yeah, I think that it's they've made some bad decisions in terms of their roster management because you can see they had like some seriously good development players coming through from that New South Wales Cup side, and aside from like one, they kind of let them all go. And so putting a lot of stock in the players that were there, I don't know. This is probably the hardest side to figure out for my
Agreed, because it's the best forward pack in the comp, fully fit. You've got,
yeah.
Fisher Harris, Barnett, Wade Egan has, turned into a star down there. Niokure, Vaimunga, Halasima, probably the best young back row prospect in the league. I agree with you, bro. It's really hard to place. Further, Roger and Dallin aren't getting any younger. Neither's Chance. I think that their back three are, really getting. They're getting pretty old, bro. I don't know.
It's a really unbalanced side because their back seven is not good and their forward pack is very good. So yeah, and what like how long's Metcalf out for?
I think round 6 or 7. So it's not super long, but I think the rule of thumb is correct in terms of it takes you 12 months to properly get over an ACL. Like, realistically.
Oh man, I'm really struggling with these guys. I guess like because of that, there's probably too many question marks. I'll probably put them 11th. I think that a lot of it they could just click and they could just be good, like if they stay healthy and they like Metcalf comes back in the side, Roger comes back in the side, plays good. But it's going to be tough for them to like 2027 limbs is a bad year, put it that way. Like I think that this might be like a bit of a premiership window closing year for the Warriors.
Wait and see, mate. I'm not too sure. I mean, obviously that massive junior base and the way that they've, sort of performed in, sort of junior reps makes me think that they might be able to weather it. But yeah, I think that they might be in for a bit of a transition period. Another team that I think is going to be in a bit of a transition period is the Newcastle Knights. I love Justin Holbrook. I think he's an attacking genius. I think he's so good. But the problem is that he hasn't built this roster. This roster was built by Peter O'Sullivan and Adam O'Brien, and you're already seeing the imbalance in terms of having two players tying up $2.8 million a year salary cap in terms of Kalen Ponga, who's coming off a Liz Frank, and Dylan Brown, who comes with massive expectations. And I know he was good in the Pacific Championships, but fuck me, he's done nothing in the NRL for the past 3 or 4 years. They have, in my view, one of the most exciting young footballers I have seen in years in Fletcher Sharp. I think he's phenomenal, but in terms of he's not a six. I think that they've got some really big decisions to make around Kalen. I think it's time that they both come to the table and work it out. And, Kalen either goes to the Roosters or the Dogs or to the All Blacks. But I just think that imbalance, plus the fact that they've got a lot of young forwards that they're expecting to do massive jobs, see Trade Mooney, Cody Hopwood, Jermaine McEwen. I think it's going to be a lean year for the Knights. Holbrook will be okay. I think he'll get it right. And he's rebuilt small clubs from the ground up before, but I think for them, fortunately, it's going to be a down year. I've got them bottom 4, about 15th.
14th. Don't really disagree with anything you said. They got some good players, but I feel like that
They got a great roster in a lot of ways, but in others, it's terrible.
I just think that like the big like how Kalen Ponga and Dylan Brown. If Kalen Ponga and Dylan Brown came out and just played 1 year as the best versions of themselves, the Knights could win the comp.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like if Kalen Ponga just puts his head on, stays fit and healthy, plays his best footy, and Dylan Brown does the same, gets back to 2024 form or whatever. Like then suddenly this side is astonishing. Like you look at the rest of the roster outside of them, like you've got like imagine you got Sanders Smith, Dylan Brown, the halves, good enough halves combo with Ponga. And then you got Marju on the wing with Bradman Best in the centers and DeCourcy coming through, and you've got like Fletcher Sharp, like you say, and then their forward pack is good. Oh yeah, like it's tricky, eh? Like I almost feel like I'm just betting against Dylan Brown and Kalen Ponga when I say 14th. I'm betting against Dylan Brown and Kalen Ponga.
Agreed. Any strong thoughts on the Cowboys?
I feel like the Cowboys. Where did they finish last year?
About 14th.
Call it 13th. I don't know if they're going to improve much. Like I don't. I think that any improvement that they have this year is going to probably come from the sides around them potentially getting worse. Like that's about it. Like I don't really see. I don't see the same level of improvement in the Cowboys this year as I see from like say the Finns, the Titans, or Tigers.
Mm.
and they're all around the same position on the ladder, right? So like it's just it's tough for me to. I get like at the end of the day as well though. Like I just they're they're another side. Like I feel like the Cowboys, the Knights, the Warriors. You could probably all flip a coin between anywhere from like top 4 to wooden spoon. Well, maybe not wooden spoon. I think there's like 3 or 4 standouts for the spoon, but like I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys, Knights, and Warriors finished anywhere from like 4th to 14th. It's really hard to kind of like gauge them. Whereas I'm a little bit more confident with most of the other predictions. So I guess that's why you just end up putting them all in around the same spot, like 11th to 13th.
Yep, I tend to agree. It's almost like the forgotten areas, anywhere between that those sorts of positions. I think this will be Todd Payton's last year at the Cowboys. They remind me of the Tigers between 2006 and 2009, in the sense that they can beat anyone however they like, whenever they like. They just don't do it consistently. It's very ironic that Todd Payton was a part of those years at the Tigers, and realistically, he's built his team in the exact same image. I think there's so much attacking upside and so much to like, but I just think with the forward pack they've assembled and the fact that they are having to utilize Tom Dearden as a 7 when I think he's an out and out 6. They don't trust Jake Clifford. They don't trust Zach Erdogan. They flirted with the idea of Purdue there. They've never really given him a crack. I just think they'll have a pretty bog boring season. About 14th for mine.
How good of a player would Scott Drinkwater be if he never left Melbourne?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think of, and I mean, there's a reason why he was first choice and Jerome was second choice. If he doesn't tear that pec in that trial when he had that very long hair, it looked like a bob. Who knows in regards
He
to?
is such a good player, man.
Oh, he is.
He
He's
like I know he's a bit of a defensive liability when he plays in the front line, which is probably why he's never been able to like make a fist of it as a 6. But like I reckon if you just took Scott Drinkwater and you put him at the Roosters or you put him at Penrith or you put him at Melbourne, he's probably a kangaroo.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree. He is amazing in terms of deconstructing overlaps. He's wonderful at it.
And fast as hell. Like, how many players in the game are as skilled as Scott Drinkwater that are as fast as Scott Drinkwater? He's one of one.
Yep, fast as shit. Parramatta. Yeah, I think that they're just about my biggest improvers with the Dolphins. I thought last year what Jason Ryles did was so fucking courageous in terms of just stripping that side, and they lost game after game after game, and he just kept on saying it'll be fine. It's all right. It's going to be fine. And you know what it was? They finished 11th last year after they looked like that they were as bad as what we were in like 2023. This team's success or lack thereof depends on Mitchell Moses' fitness. He missed more games than he played last year. If he plays 20 games, they could genuinely be top 4. I just think there's so much to like about their side, and they're still millions and millions of dollars under the cap. I think that Sean Russell, after looking like he was barely a centre's arsehole there for a couple of years, finally actually resembles a first grader that can really test opposition defenses. I love Isaiah Iongi. Pre and post photos of his joint smoking. Bailey Simonson, I think he's impossible to put down out of yardage. Addo Carr looks like a man reborn. And the Peasant one is fascinating in terms of how they're going to go about that, because they're both two very ball dominant 7s. But, guys like Junior Paulo, similar to Fox, look like they've got a new lease on life. And I think it'll be the same for Jack DeBellin. For mine, unfortunately, I've got Parramatta about 7th place.
I have the Eels finishing 3rd. I agree with you. I think Jason Ryles is going to be a legacy coach. I hope that they finish like 6th or something. I can't see them missing the 8, like unless Mitchell Moses gets injured. But see, even if Mitchell Moses gets injured, then they got Peasant at 7. Like they've actually like they're low key. Like if I was a betting man, they'd be who I'd be putting some futures on. And the problem with the Eels is they've got so many years of improvement to come when you look at their pathways. Like they're gonna be good for so very very long. I hope that they don't hit their strides too soon. Because obviously, I don't, I don't want the Parramatta Eels winning the premiership this year. But like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they do. Like, you get
Mm.
these, get coaches like Jason Riles who comes into sides and like he managed to do what he set out to do. Like his plan worked. Like, he turned over the roster the way he wanted to turn it over. He brought in the players he wanted to bring in. He's bought himself a year on a rental with Pezzett because he's got players coming down the pipe that are going to come in next year and kill it.
Yep.
It's hard to see. Like, I feel like they're one of the surest bets in the comp to finish high in the ladder this year, honestly.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you.
So yeah, I've got him finishing in the top four. I got him finishing third, which makes my top four set as Canterbury Sharks. Oh no, I've still no Canterbury Sharks, Eels, Titans as my top four. Yeah, so it's a very interesting top four. But I hate it. I kind of don't. I'm kind of laying it on thick. Like I kind of don't dislike Para that much. I just hate Mitchell Moses.
Yeah.
So for me, like my perfect outcome is Mitchell Moses dies, and then Jonah Pezzett takes over the 7 and they win the comp without Mitchell Moses. I would beat off. I would be just beating off so much that like I don't think I would ever stop.
There you have
Aside
it.
from if they beat us in the GF, that would suck. But like I certainly would beat off over that. But like, yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Their Western City counterparts, the Penrith Panthers. I'm just going to move on from that as quickly as I can. I think they look excellent. I think that, being knocked off their perch last year, they're going to be hungrier. Everything seems to have held up, and it's the first time in many, many, many years where they haven't had, they've had 2 years of having the same squad together, and other clubs haven't come and picked the eyes out of them. I've got them third.
Sixth,
Nice.
I think
South.
they're good. I think Penrith. Sorry, let me talk. Come on. I mean, it's hard for me to see. I'm putting so much stock in one result. But, like, they do not look like a better side than the West Tigers. They look like a very, very evenly matched side to the West Tigers. So it's very hard for me to put them any too much higher on the ladder than the West Tigers. Now, that being said, Penrith know how to win. They've got it. It's culture with them. It's embodied in their soul. And it's not so much with the West Tigers, but the this is like Penrith had a bit of a rocky year last year, right? So they've kind of got a bit of the wobbly boot on.
Mm.
I certainly, I certainly see it being tricky for them if my prediction that like a lot of sides like the Eels and the Titans and the Finns and that become stronger, like they're going to use Penrith as a yardstick because that's what every side does, right? So Penrith are going to be playing every side's best performance every week just because they're who they are. And I think that's sort of what happened to them last year to an extent as well. And I just don't think that they're as elite as they once were without Luai, without Crichton. I just think that they've come back to the pack, but they're still obviously formidable and there's enough shit sides in the comp this year for them to, get themselves into the top 8. I personally don't really see the minor premiers being too far away from 8th in terms of points this year. I feel like it'll be a pretty tight ladder.
Fair enough. One team that you think is going to be shit is the South Sydney Rabbitohs, so you can fire off.
How blue do you want me to go with this? Look, I think Wayne Bennett has decided, he used to be a cop. Yeah. Wayne Bennett has decided that in his retirement years, he's going to be, the uncle, what do they call him? The Mr. Rogers of the NRL. Takes on every charity case known to man, brings them on in. Here you go, have a suckle at Uncle Wayno's booby. I'll give you a career. I'll give you a lifeline. And all the power to the man. We need more of that in the world. We need more of that in the world. Young men need, experienced men who've been there and done that to back them in to go, hey, come here. You can do better. You can be like legit. You can be a star. You can be a man. It's all good. You've got this. He's done it for years. It's his thing. But has he ever done it to this extent? Look at some of the players that he's brought into this club. Go on. Well, Brandon Smith.
Yeah,
You
so
thought Brandon Smith. He's brought the fox into the henhouse. Like the Rabbitohs already have a bit of a culture problem, right? They've already got a bit of a culture problem with the likes of Latrell and Cody and how they, just they're a little bit averse to the off-field indiscretion. Let's put it that way. And then he brings Captain Cocaine and fucking, Adam Elliott. Adam Elliott. He brought Brandon Smith and Adam Elliott into the club, and that's not even stopping. Like, I'm missing somebody. Who else? Didn't they just sign Jackson Topine?
Yeah, Matt Duffy.
Dufty? Is Dufty I didn't know Dufty was a bit of a rat bag. But anyway, I think that the Rabbitohs, oh man, but look, it's talented. It's a talented side. It's like, but they. I think to your point, you said something about them lacking a bit of they lack the 7 there. Is Ashton Ward or Jamie Humphries capable of being a 7 in a side where everybody wants to be the superstar? Jonah Glover's also never played in a real right, so even when he comes back, he's going to be thrown into the fire playing 7 at this side. I feel like Ashton Ward's probably who I'd favour to start with, just because he seems like he's got autistic confidence or something. Like last year, the way he played, it's like, who is this kid?
Yeah, he reminds me of Luke Keary.
Yeah, a bit. Well, yeah, in terms of his size and the paleness of his skin. But anyway, I just feel like it's such if Wayne Bennett manages to get the South Sydney Rabbitohs into the top 8 this year and further, even if he doesn't win the comp, it might be his best ever effort, because this is just. It's somewhere between Dad's Army and the Long Bay fucking Robins. It's just bananas. What he's chosen to do. I've got them finishing a pretty solid and formidable 16th.
Yeah, I don't have them that low, but I do have them missing the 8, mainly around the fact that, there are questions around that halves pairing. And I know that Cody Walker debuted late, but he's still 36. I may be wrong. I love watching Cody go to work, but I'm just not sure. Obviously, Ashton, there's question marks around him. I think that this is a team similar to the Cowboys that could beat genuine premiership contenders by 70 when they feel like it. But I think that in those games where they're expected to get into the grind and do the tough stuff, I just don't think that there's enough, workers in that forward pack to get them through it. I think Keon moving to the middle was an inspired choice last year, and I think it paid dividends in a largely unsuccessful season. Cam Murray's coming back, who I think is probably the best 13 in the game alongside Isaiah Yeo. But other than that, there's question marks. I don't even know if Jai Arrow is going to get back this year. He's got a Tom Flegler-esque injury. Tavita Totola has not been the same player for the past few years. I don't like it. And I think, moving Campbell Gray into the wing to try and fit, Jack Whiten in. There's questions around John Gray, Alex Johnston, although he'll get the record this year, which will be pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good forward pack. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think they really have it, in terms of, depth. For mine, it looks like now that Brandon Smith's done his calf, Mamazelos will start at 9. Bronson Garlic, who's fucking hopeless, he'll be jersey 14. Hubner's a tradie, doesn't offer much. I think you can break tackles around him. No dramas. There's always been questions around Ewan Aitken's defensive proficiencies, and Adam Elliott. Well, you said it all yourself. So yeah, 11th. Dragons straight away 15th until they bring, or 16th actually, until they bring these young throbbing forwards through and Flano begins to trust them, as opposed to running fucking Emre Gula in the starting pack, and he moves his son, who I believe is a first grader but not a halfback. He's a 14 and he's a better 9 than he is a 7. Out of there, and they bring some of these young blokes through. Cade Reed, Oliver Burton, are two to begin with, who I think are phenomenally talented spine players, they're not going to get anywhere. It's just, and then you add the fact that Gutherson, Holmes, and Damien Cook are as old as time. It's just not going to go very well there. I think Shane Flanagan's a good coach, but I think unfortunately his desire to be patient and protect these young blokes is what may well lead to his sacking. 16th.
Matt Duffy, Bailey Bentley Harper, Talanoa Penatani, Latrell Sigwalt, Geordie Mazzoni,
You're talking
Ashton
about
Ward,
South.
Jeremy Glover, Salisi Ata, Peter Marmazelos, Lachlan Hubner, Thomas Fletcher, Max McCarthy, Bronson Garlick, Jamie Humphrey, Savita Totola, Sean Kepi, Liam LeBlanc. That is the 1 to 17.
Did you
That is the one. That is the 1 to 17 that beat the full strength Dragons 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I understand now. I'm sorry. I was so fucking confused.
That is the 1 to 17 that beat the full strength Dragons 2 weeks ago. That side would not win the New South Wales Cup.
No.
The Dragons are going to finish last. I don't think that it's even like up for debate. Like I don't know how you got them finishing 16. Who you got finishing last?
Manly.
Yeah, okay. You, man, I don't know, man. You think that like Manly couldn't beat a side that's our side beat? Anyway, I digress. Like the side the side the Dragons named that lost to them in the Charity Shield, which is actually the only preseason game that matters to any of the players, mind you. So it's actually the best form line of any of the other games. Was Gutherson, Tuapoloto, Moses Sully, David Farley, Setu Tu, Kyle Flanagan, Daniel Atkinson, Emery Gula, Damien Cook, Toby Catchman, Luciano Leilua, Jaden Sewer Hamasela, Hamish Stewart, Blake Laurie, Ryan Catchman, Loco, Pacifica Tonga. And they even had in their reserves list first graders, Tyrell Sloan, Matt Fiangai, Laikan King Tonga, Jacob Hungahu. Mate, there is something foul at the Dragons. Like they were so bad. They were so bad. It wasn't even like the South side that beat them like were just like on one. It wasn't. Like they were just running. They were just that bad.
Yep. Yep. I want to apologise to you. When you started reading out the South team list, I thought that you thought that I was still on the South grind. But
No,
what your point is immaculate. I just don't know what happens there at all. But
mate, they're last.
yeah. All right, Roosters. Unfortunately, I do have the top four. It's clear that you don't. And I'd like to hear that in a little moment. But I think that Reece Robson is exactly what they need at 9. He will be amazing for that forward pack. That forward pack is just too good. Probably the best in the comp alongside the Warriors. Sam Walker, I think this is the year that he puts his stamp on the competition. I think Daly Cherry Evans will enjoy playing 6. I don't have them there in terms of the premiership, and I think they might be there for the prelims. I don't have them there on grand final day, but unfortunately, I have them top 4.
Look, when you do blind like rankings, you end up putting yourself in situations that you like go fuck. You know what I mean? Like, and this is one of those things because like I have to. I put them 12. They ain't finishing 12. I know this. You know this. This is blind rankings. I fucked up. I fucked up somewhere, right? But look, for the benefit of a little bit of a laugh, I'll try to make an argument that they're going to finish outside the 8. James Tedesco, old as shit. He's old. And he's, like, takes one knock and, like, where the Roosters finish if James Tedesco doesn't play heaps of games this year? They rely on him. He's Daly and Player of the Year. He's like 400 years old. What else we got? Daly Cherry Evans is the oldest halfback in the history of mankind. So they got Methuselah and they got Methuselah and Noah at 1 and 6. Sam Walker's made out of Teflon. And who's their 9?
Reece Robson.
Oh, he's all right. That's a pretty good signing. Can't really knock that. Fuck the Roosters. I hate these cunts so much.
No,
Get
mate.
the fuck. I hope that I'm going to manifest them finishing 12th just so I seem like a genius. Look, if there's one thing I will say is that they do not have good depth. They do not have good depth. So with a couple of oldies and a couple of like Teflon boys in the side, like, if they manage to stay with their top 17 playing out most of the year, fine. Maybe they win the comp. Who knows? But like, I guess I'm just backing in DCE and Teddy to look like geriatrics and Sam Walker to bust a fluffer valve.
All right. One side left. It's actually the side that we do an entire podcast about. You can go first.
Well, I'm fifth.
I love it. Why?
Oh, well, look, we won preseason. We're the best side in preseason. I know we didn't finish on the top preseason ladder, but goddamn, we look good. Where's the weakness? I find it difficult to. I find it difficult to look. At the end of the day, like if we had of finishing fifth was on the cards for the Tigers at some point last year until the wheels fell off. So all I'm really suggesting is that the wheels don't fall off this year, right? Like, is that so hard to believe that the wheels just don't fall off this year when we've got monster Marcassini to throw the ball to, who will probably score 30 tries this season? Jerome Luai finally looks like he's actually figured out the role. Like he's playing in his best position. We've got somebody who 2 years ago was almost unquestionably the best six in the comp, now playing six. Hallelujah. We've got Adam Dewey playing seven, who is very experienced. And if it doesn't work out, we can go to any of three alternative options, all of which I would be pretty happy to have a crack. We've got Appy Coruscant at 9, and we've got like Jared Hayward looks like Appy Coruscant, like fucking white chocolate version. Like we've got depth coming out of our eyeballs, optionality coming out of our eyeballs, and the pack looks like they're like wanting to kill people. I know I like played a lot of this for comedy, but there's a reason I like played around the fifth spot because I had the Tigers in fifth the whole time. Like I genuinely think that the Tigers are going to break the drought this year, and I'm just saying fifth because I don't want to come across like too much of a homer. That's the only reason. Like I've got the Titans ahead of us, like got Para ahead of us. Like, do I really think that they're better sides than the Tigers? I don't know. No, I don't really. But you know what? We blind ranked this shit. I just think that like the mixture of like workers. You said before, like the problem you have with South is you don't think they have workers. We got workers. We got Twal.
Yeah.
We got Twal. We got Terrell, who's tireless. We got Kai Pierce-Paul, who's a great defender. We got like workman-like players in workman-like spots. We got workman-like depth. And then we got Jareem Waller, Hiamasi Marcassini, Taylor May, Stafford Toa, Sunia Taruva, Jerome Luai, Adam Dewey. That's a good back seven, dude.
Yeah.
Real good.
Yeah.
Real good. Terrell May, Appy Coruscant, Bunty Afoa, Kai Pierce-Paul, Samuel Afinu, Alex Twal. That's a real good 8-13, man. It's a good side, bro. Like, it's a good side.
I think that the only thing that is stopping rugby league pundits and West Tigers fans alike from rating them a little bit higher is simply history. It's been 15 years since we made finals. Obviously, it's been up and down for a very long time. We've come off 3 straight spoons. Last year, we showed some promise. We fell away. Now, there were reasons for that. I don't think there was necessarily excuses. I think that the Galvin debacle was just horrific. A lot of, the boardroom stuff now is clearly not been a distraction with the way that, they've come out and play, which is pleasing. Obviously, we hope that continues and it isn't a distraction. I'm going to look at this really objectively. I've got us eighth. I've got us sneaking in. I've got us joining the cluster of teams between 7th and 12th. I felt like that for the most part. Going off what I saw in preseason, I think that we can make anywhere between probably 6th and 8th, and we can be at the top of that cluster. Looking at it really objectively, I think we're missing that one tear-away front rower. But in saying that, if Terrell May can be utilised in the same manner that he was at the Roosters, and he plays less minutes and has more impact, then we may well have that already. The pack already looks more balanced with a guy like Royce Hunt coming back into the side, stripped, of 10 plus kilos, same with Bunty R5. That gives us that. We have a genuine right-sided back rower, which I think is going to do so much for our right edge defensively, and Adam Dewey as well, who I can't believe it, saying it now, but 12 months ago wasn't a decent defender, but it is now. I agree with you in terms of Jerome Luai actually, really relishing in this role. My biggest question is simply around two players, and they're the two guys that I said I wasn't really worried about as a West Tigers fan, but as an NRL watcher, I'm curious around Uppy Coruscant and his age and how he's going to go. Obviously, he's missed a lot of tackles, and throughout these last couple of years, and I think that there are certain parts of his game that aren't necessarily waning, but I'm hopeful that we can manage him and look after him, and look after his minutes, despite the fact that he probably doesn't want to come from the field. And Jordan Buller. We really need him to take that quantum leap this year and be the guy that puts the team on his back and wins us games. If that happens, then yeah, I think we can finish higher than 8th. I think that our ceiling probably is 5th. I know that
First.
I think our ceiling's about 5th. But yeah, look, with the way that the squad's been built, with the depth, you can see the hunger, you can see a genuine system there. They're all pulling in the same direction. They're all behind Benji. I'd be very surprised, particularly with the left edge that they've amassed, that we're sitting outside of the top 8 at the conclusion of the season, based on what I've seen so far and ranking them against these other teams.
If your biggest question marks are the best 2 players in the team, you're probably okay.
That's a good way to look at it. I'm just we need. I don't think we need more from Uppy. We just need Uppy to remain at the same level. We need more out of Jureen.
Well, the thing is, like, if you're saying that everyone aside from them you're like confident in, like you must also be saying like we could probably suffer through those 2 guys just being average.
Quite possibly.
Like,
I mean,
do they even have to be their best versions for this version of the West Tigers to commit fucking hate crimes against the likes of the Dragons and the Manly Sea Eagles and shit? I don't think so. I think that the thing that interests me is how they came out of the off season going into these trials. The attitude, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a Tigers team that like. Tell a lie. It reminded me of the Tigers team that had like Gave, Taupau, Sue, like when they were like hungry and they were like wanting to hurt people. That like it was that sort of vibe coming out of an off season where they had every chance to like if they were like able to be rattled by external factors, this off season would have done that to them, right? So somehow they have managed to rally around Benji, rally around each other, and create that vibe in the camp that, like, it's us versus them mentality. And you can see it. It's so, so, so visible in it. And it doesn't, and of course they are. Like, it's, the guys like Taylor and Terrell May are like built for that shit. They live off fucking proving doubters wrong. Jerome Luai lives off proving doubters wrong. It's who they are as people. So because of that, to your point about the history being the thing that maybe like, makes people doubt them, it's just like when, people are going to be like, they're probably going to get 50 put past them by the Cowboys because that's just what history says happens. Like there's these demons inside of the West Tigers in the walls, in the minds of these players generally that tends to come out. But it doesn't look like this the vibe around this group seems different. It's like they've exercised those demons somehow. It's like they came out of last year and they went, "We're a good side. We actually know we're a good side." And they have this like it's academic. Like put the first 2 trials like to one side and just focus on one aspect of them. The way that we finished both of those games off.
Yeah.
Was so unlike the Tigers. And I know it was the depth players that did it in both cases, but like in both of those games, it felt like we were just like, I know that the Roosters scored the last try, but like we were like ahead by 26 when they did. It was like we didn't take our foot off the throat in either of those games whatsoever.
No.
In the Penrith game, we just stayed in the fight with them and broke them and then just went, bang, bang, bang. That's not Tigers like.
No.
And that's the fact that it was the depth players that did that in both cases shows that it's the coaching that did it.
I hear you. Yeah,
So I haven't had a chance to really soapbox on the Tigers too much of late, but it may surprise people to hear I am actually really, really confident. I have been caught being confident too much in the past sometimes, but like I feel like most of the time I'm kind of obviously just cheerleading. Not this time. Like I am genuinely confident that the West Tigers are going to have a cracking year. And I think here Marcy Marcassini is a moral. He'd have to be the shortest price favorite to be the rookie of the year in the history of the fucking award.
without a doubt.
I saw Sean Johnson predicted Adam Dewey's going to be Dally M halfback of the year. That's some prediction. But I can see
I don't even think he'll be the halfback of the club by round 12. But anyway, look, I agree with you. I don't necessarily revel in your optimism, but I do share some of it. I think this is the year that we break the finals duck. And the thing is that, and you might agree with this too, my head says that there is a good roster there and there's a good squad there and they're all pulling in the same direction. They look excellent. They look fit. They've gone to another level. It's just your heart. You've just, and I'm sure everybody listening can attest to this. We've just been heartbroken so many fucking times, but it does feel a little bit different. So, yeah, there you have it. Both of us in agreement. We'll break our finals duck for the first time in 15 years. All right, pathways. I'm going to get through it really quickly for a couple of reasons. One, we've been here for nearly 2 hours. Two, I'm going to do an in-depth review once I get out of the games at Camden on Saturday, going through every grade.
3, I didn't watch them.
And 4, we lost it in every grade. West Harold Mats lost on the hooter. That really, really hurt. That first South try that they scored, it sort of rang alarm bells in terms of a lack of urgency, and there was obviously a lack of discipline there as well, which was pretty disappointing. I thought Terrari Golding Lyons had some beautiful touches on his return to the competition. He was great, but again, it was a really, really tough one, and I think that the game against Balmain this weekend is going to be pretty evenly fought. Balmain against Parramatta, they just came up against a red-hot Parramatta, Harold Matthews side. They did really well to peg it back to 2 tries apiece. Again, Cesaro and Arroyan had some nice touches. The right edge defense wasn't great, but a lot of the issues seem to stem from things breaking down in the middle originally, and then Parramatta having the presence of mind to sort of shift the ball wider. SG Ball for Balmain. I've never seen a game turn so quickly. They were in control, even with the intercept. They looked like they were well on top, and then it just all fell apart. You just cannot give Parramatta SG Ball the football. They'll punish you. The number 3 for Balmain, whose name escapes me, he had a beautiful touch on that right edge, sort of skipped past 2 defenders, past for his winger. For Haihulu to score in the 8th minute. His name was it's that Palmer Vivau. Very, very good player. Really like the look of him. But I just sit here in awe of this Parramatta junior reps cohort. They're just phenomenal. They are just so good, and there's so many the first grade potential players in that squad. West, they should have beaten South. Fuck me, they should have beaten them. I cannot believe they lost. And, there was some really good moments from those guys that you would expect, the ones that had NRL preseason. Siatame Havea moved to 9 and then eventually played 13. Eventually, he scored a very, very good try. It was a half poor defence, half great spirit from him. Aaron Payer, I thought, looked excellent at fullback. He scored a really good try where Phoenix unlocked Glassy down the right edge, and then Payer was back in centre. It's very clear we've employed this rushing style defence where the wingers come in and apply pressure, but we're just not executing at the moment. So that one's going to be an interesting watch. As I said, Kirkham Oval. We've got Andrew Johns Cup, Laurie Daly Cup, SG Ball, Harold Matthews. Balmain and West, as I'm sure you can understand after what I've said, are playing each other this weekend. Get down there if you can. I'll be there. And I'll do an in-depth review next week of some players that catch my eye. Mac, I think we're done. Let's go for food, mate. What do you reckon?
I'm going to come down to Sydney for the round 2 game at Leichhardt. I reckon we should do a pre-game podcast episode at some pub.
Oh, you're going to hate this. It's my misso's birthday. I can't make it. I haven't told anyone yet.
Jared's misso? Come on. Just come. She can be on the app.
See what We've already got a day plan, unfortunately. But next time you come down for sure. But hey, if you want to record one yourself and just get all the pundits, you go for your life.
I'll just do it literally at Leichhardt. I'll just do an episode at Leichhardt on the hill
Like when you interview Billy.
during the New South. Yeah, that was sick. Doing the Billy Slater. That was after a combat game that we won. That was awesome. Anyway, it's been real. Very long episode, 2 hours. Edit the shit out of it. Nobody wants to listen to us talk shit for 2 hours. It's West Tigers Faithful checking out. We'll see you guys next week with nothing much to say because the Tigers don't play for 3 fucking weeks. What kind of...
We're on a stranger.